Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi dan salam sejahtera untuk kita semuanya. Senang sekali hari ini saya Aulia Fikri dari Indosemen bisa bersama dengan teman-teman sekalian, Bapak dan Ibu yang sudah hadir dan mungkin menunggu dari beberapa menit yang lalu untuk bergabung dalam acara kita pada hari ini. Ya, inilah acara kita webinar Indosemen dengan tema teknologi konstruksi yang durable, sustainable dan ramah lingkungan. Baik Bapak dan Ibu sekalian, kegiatan webinar ini merupakan rangkaian dari 3 kegiatan webinar yang akan kita lakukan di akhir tahun ini. Nanti minggu depan tanggal 11 November akan kita laksanakan satu webinar lagi dan di bulan Desember tanggal 7 Desember akan ada satu webinar lagi. Kenapa? Karena kita melihat orang begitu antusias untuk belajar konstruksi sehingga Indosemen terus akan memberikan edukasi bekerja sama dengan para pakar untuk terus memberikan pengetahuan kepada masyarakat konstruksi Indonesia. Maka teman-teman kalau mau mencari kita di sosial media dimanapun cukup dengan hashtag belajar konstruksi, kita akan ketemu di sana untuk belajar konstruksi bersama-sama. Baik, tekankan sekalian kita akan masuk kepada pembicara yang ketiga. Ya, pembicara yang ketiga kali ini tidak kalah istimewa dengan semua pembicara yang sudah tayang tadi ya. Seperti materi akhir dari Pak Budi barusan kalau kita dengar bahas tentang mix konkret. Disinggung sedikit, kenapa cuma sedikit? Karena setelah ini akan banyak sekali kita bicara tentang konkret ya. Karena di sini akan hadir Bapak Dr. Arvin Suryavansi, Bapak Dr. Arvin Suryavansi. Saya akan bacakan CV dari beliau ya. Yang pertama adalah Dr. Arvin sudah bekerja selama 30 tahun ya dalam bidang konkret teknologi dan beliau mendapatkan gelar doktor dari University of Manchester, England. Dan beliau adalah anggota dari Institute of Concrete Technology, FICT England, dan bergabung pada ICT Council sebagai perwakilan dari Singapura dan Indonesia. Ya. Dan beliau juga adalah anggota dari American Concrete Institute, USA, yaitu sebagai Director and Head of Education Committee dari ACI Singapura ya, tahun 2007 sampai tahun 2018. Dan sejak tahun 2017 Dr. Arvin bergabung di PT Pianur Beton Industri sebagai General Manager dan Technical Department. Ya, teman-teman sekalian, sebentar lagi kita akan saksikan Dr. Arvin akan memberikan materi kepada kita semuanya. Mari kita fokus karena materi ini akan disampaikan dalam bahasa Inggris ya.
Selamat pagi. So this is my end of Bahasa talent, so I have to speak in English now. So my topic is good practices for quality, durability, sustainability, environmental friendly construction. I basically come from Pioneer Beton, but my focus will be most on practical aspects in the industry. So first you have to understand what is durability. Durability means if you build a building, it should last for at least 50 to 100 years with minimum maintenance. This is the definition of long-term durability. And this durability, you remember here, most of the structures which have failed across the world, they are not failed because of loss of strength. They have failed because of durability issues. More number of structures have failed because of durability issues. And what are the issues causes the durability? First is the chloride, which is coming from the marine environment or sea salt. Then the sulfate. In Indonesia, you find plenty of sulfate in the ground as well as in water. So you have to use appropriate kind of cement for these circumstances. Okay then. You have got any other processes also which affect the durability, something like abrasion. Abrasion comes for the roads. Then leakage in the concrete elements, that also affects the durability. Cracks, the worst one. Cracks are the spaces through which your moisture can enter, chlorides can enter, sulfate can enter into concrete. So last one is your quality of the cover of the element. The cover has to be very strong, then only the element becomes more durable. Now, the chlorides will attack the steel. What they do is they form the rust on the rebar and afterwards the cover will fall. We call it as spalling. And afterwards the entire cover will fall and all the rebars will be exposed to the direct environment. That should not happen. And steel also corrodes because of the loss of pH. When the pH of the concrete goes down below 9 pH, the rebar becomes unstable, starts corroding. That's also a very common issue. The last one is the sulfate. The sulfate, basically they are found in the groundwater and in the soil. So you should be very careful when you do your bore piling and use the precast piles. The sulfate basically do not attack the steel. Sulfate attacks the concrete, whereas the salt attacks the rebar. This is a difference. So when you have this kind of aggressive environment, we do three kinds of tests here. You can see here, for chloride penetration, we do RCPT based on the ASTM standard 1202, and for water penetration, we do based on the German standard DIN 1048, and the sulfate resistance based on ASTM 1012. Most of the people in industry, they will ask for RCPT, and they'll ask very low chloride permeability, somewhere around 1,000 to 2,000 coulombs, or 100 to 1,000 coulombs. That's what most of the people ask. I have pointed out here. This is the range you have to get your permeability. Then next slide. So how do you get durability? The question comes, yes, durability is most important. Then how do you achieve durability in the concrete? The first and the most important thing is using supplementary cementitious materials. What are the supplementary cementitious materials? Like fly ash. In Indonesia, you get two types of fly ash, ASTM-C and ASTM-F also. Some people use silica fume, and you also can use a TRAS. TRAS is a natural pozzolan. It is plentifully available in Indonesia. These are the basically SCMs widely used in Indonesia. Now, what is the effect of SCMs? SCMs not only provide you durability, they also give long-term strength. You can see in the graph here. In this graph here, if I use more of fly ash, the initial strength will drop, but later on you see here, it exceeds your OPC. There's a long-term strength gain is there. That's the most critical thing for most of the element. Whereas if you use 100% OPC, it forms a plateau and you do not find long-term strength increase. This is a major advantage of using SCMs. When you use SCM, there's one more effect called filler effect. The sizes are different. The size of the OPC is different, the size of fly ash is different, the strass is different. So what happened is, they give a good packing effect. Because of the packing effect also, you can derive some strength. Now, what are the methods of application of SCMs? The most important thing and most commonly used wide across the world is, you get pre-blended cements. For example, PCC, Portland Composite Cement, is a pre-blended in the factory. PPC, which is Portland Pozzolanic Cement. And nowadays, you got what is called a hydraulic cement. It is based on the latest SNI standard. This hydraulic cement is a very good replacement to OPC. And in the industry, people always ask me, how can I get early strength park? Hydraulic cement can also give early strength. It is also designed for moderate sulfate resistance. It can also give you a high sulfate resistance. It can also be used for mass concreting, where you want low temperature. So hydraulic cement is an ideal replacement to OPC. The other advantage of hydraulic cement is, it is a green cement because it has plenty of SCMs. This is a major advantage of a hydraulic cement. Then we have got one more product, which is slag cement. The slag cement is basically, it is manufactured in the industry by intergrinding the slag and the clinker. So it becomes a very homogeneous mix. And it comes as a one product for you, so that storing and handling in the RMC plant is very simple it is, okay? In the slag cement also you got two varieties. One is low heat. This is ideal for mass concreting, where you have to control your peak temperature. And one more comes a general purpose, which can be used for RCC structures exposed to marine environment. This is very ideal for bore piles and precast piles, because bore piles and precast piles, you have to assess what is the quality of the soil and the groundwater for sulfate. So this can be used there. So let me go to the next slide. Now, you use SCM in the cement. Okay, blended cement, you got SCMs. then what they exactly give you, how they perform, and how they reduce your permeability makes the concrete much more denser. This has to be understood here. If I use my OPC, it reacts with water and it produces CHS gel, right? This is the CHS gel is a glue. You glue basically producing. This glue basically binds your split and sand together and makes one solid product. So apart from the glue, CHS gel, you also produce calcium hydroxide. This calcium hydroxide does not contribute any strength. It is a defective structure. We do not want this one. This is much more porous. This will affect your permeability. It makes plenty of pore structure in the concrete. So what you do is, when you use SCMs, for example, maybe fly ash, maybe slag, anything, what they do is they react this calcium hydroxide. This calcium hydroxide is picked up by the SCMs in the presence of water and it produces one more gel. This gel is also glue. The difference is this gel is much more denser than this gel. That's the major advantage here. So this gel start filling in the pores of this gel. This gel is very denser, starts filling the pores of this gel. So ultimately what happens? Your pore structure, which was earlier like this, it gets blocked. So it becomes discontinuous, we say. So when it becomes discontinuous, your moisture cannot penetrate. Remember here, the chlorides and sulfates, they cannot move on their own. They need a carrier. What is a carrier? Carrier is the water. Water carries the salt and the sulfate. So now there is no space for, no entry for water to move inside. It gets blocked here. Earlier, if you use 100% OPC, this is the situation. Water can easily move through the concrete and it can transport your salt as well as sulfates. So ultimately, if you use SCMs, you end up in a concrete which becomes impermeable to water, gas, chlorides and sulfates. This is the main advantage of using SCMs in the blended cements. Next one, yes, I need durability. So what I did, I used SCMs. That's not only one. There's one more basic thing you have to remember. The basic thing is, if you want a long-term durability, you have to reduce your water to cement ratio of the concrete. That is the basic thing you have to do. It is a fundamental thing. I give you just example here. You can see here, we casted big slabs, very big slabs, 1 meter by 1 meter. This research was done in Sheffield when I was working in Sheffield. And the thickness of the slab was almost 150 millimeters. The bars were in the lower. So what we did is, one part was coated, the other part was not coated. We exposed both the parts to chlorides for 5 years. 5 years. It's a long-term study, 5 years. 3 days waiting with the salt solution and 3 days drying. So it went for 5 years. After the end of the 5 years, we cored through these slabs. These slabs are having 3 different water cement ratios, 0.45, 0.6, and 0.75. Now, after 5 years, we cored it and you made a slice. The slices were 0 to 5, 5 to 25, 25 to 45, and so on. So all the slices at the same depth, they were mixed together and crushed together. Then you found out how much chloride is entered at different depths. So then this graph is plotted. You can see 0 to 5 always weaker. 0 to 5 is upper surface. It is subjected to bleeding. You always find more porosities. So don't worry for 0 to 5. But start looking from 5 to 25 onwards. If you go to 45 to 65, for water cement ratio of 0.45, absolutely there are no chlorides. If you look at for other water cement ratios, 0.75 and 0.60, still you find chlorides in a depth of 85 to 105. That means if you use lower water cement ratio, that's the best method to control your penetration of chlorides and the sulfates. Okay? Now, you have to see what is the basics of durability. First thing, yes, we use SCMs. We use binary blends or tertiary blends. Binary blends means 1 OPC, 1 SCM. Tertiary means 1 OPC, 2 SCMs. That becomes a tertiary. Most of the blended cements nowadays are either tertiary, mostly are the tertiary or quaternary. Quaternary means 3 SCMs. Then second option is you have to reduce your water to cement ratio. Then comes the 3 critical things. Wet curing. Curing is the most important thing. Curing, when the curing is effective, then only your SCMs will give the optimum properties. If you do not properly cure, there is no effect of SCM. Then proper consolidation at the site. Compaction is the most important thing. Last thing is impermeable concrete cover. You have to properly compact it and protect your cover from drying, cure it, and make the cover stronger. Because the cover zone is the entry point, is most entry point for all the deleterious materials. There's a basic concept here. When you design the concrete, you always design for durability. Look at the durability and design. From the durability design, you derive the strength. Don't do the other way. Don't design the concrete for strength and expect it to be durable. It's a totally wrong approach. The approach has to be focused to be on the durability, and through durability design, you get the strength. Then, people ask me one more thing. What is the use of waterproofing compounds? I add waterproofing compounds. Yeah, I should get impermeable concrete. I tell you here, you have to make a right cake. If you put ice on the cake, icing on the cake, then only it becomes a good cake with a icing. Your cake is made by these 5 parameters. The cake has to be very good. And over that, if you put your waterproofing compound, it's a good icing on the cake. So your basic material, the basic cake has to be very good. You have to focus on those 5 parameters first. Then, we'll also, when you use your SCMs, you also give what is called as sustainable concrete. Your concrete becomes sustainable. First example is, in the blended cement, you are cutting down your clinker content. That means you are saving some limestone and clay. We should not consume all the limestone and the clay available on the earth. We should leave something for our future generation to go and see it. Otherwise, they have to go to the museum and see limestone and clay. That day should not come. You have to reduce your carbon dioxide emission. Carbon dioxide is a green gas it is. It produces more heat and it causes the polar ice to melt. I come to that. One more thing, in industry now, you want to have sustainable concrete, you have to go for high strength concrete. High strength concrete means cylinder strength 50 and above. What is the advantage? For example, if I replace a column of grade 40 with grade 100, the column size decreases by almost 50%. That means you are using less concrete to build more. So ultimately, when you use less concrete, you're using less of stones, less of sand, which are the natural materials. We have to leave them for the future generation. So by this also, you achieve your sustainable construction. Next slide. This is something on how much carbon dioxide you produce. Remember here, when you produce carbon dioxide, as I said, it will increase atmospheric temperature. Then what is the next effect? Due to the increase in atmospheric temperature, the polar ice starts melting in the North Pole and the South Pole. So what happens? Sea level will rise. When the sea level will rise, you lose your country. Remember, we got a country called Maldives, the west of India. This is the country going to disappear from Mother Earth very soon, very soon, very soon, because of a rise in the sea level. So now it is a good opportunity for all of us to go and see Maldives before it disappears. And there is no mistake of Maldivian cities. It's a mistake of we all people. We contribute to the carbon dioxide and they are going to suffer. Now I give you a comparison here. If I use OPC and if I use combination of 15% fly ash and balanced OPC, and if I use Portland composite cement, which is PCC. So look at here, if you look at this column, if I replace OPC by a combination of 15% fly ash and 85% OPC, I save about 13.2% of carbon dioxide. The reduction is there, that much reduction. If I use Portland composite cement instead of OPC, I say almost 29%. It's a very good thing to publicize. You know, this is a very good thing. You have done a good service to the entire humanity. And similarly here, if I use my slag cement, I got 2 varieties here. One is low heat, one is general purpose. You can see here the reduction is almost 59% with your low heat. It's almost 57% with almost general purpose. So this is the major advantage of using your blended cement. Not only the durability, you also service the entire community by reducing your carbon dioxide emission. Next slide. I have come to know what is the effect, how to can improve the durability at the site conditions. This is my basic curve of initial setting time and what is the final setting time. In this curve, this point is initial setting time. What is meant by initial setting time? Initial setting time is a time when the slumps become zero, okay? And the final setting time is the point where the concrete start developing its strength. Then in between the initial set and the final set, you got a transition period, okay? The transition period is only meant for finishing it is. You can finish your concrete. Now let us look into before initial time, what you do. Initial time, you have to cure properly. So what is first, let's see, definition of curing. The definition of curing is to avoid loss of moisture from the element. You should avoid loss of moisture from the element to the atmosphere. And to supply additional moisture. When to supply? If the dry is there. And maintain a favorable temperature. These are the three basic functions of curing, okay? So when you start curing, before the initial set, you have to, this is a time, basically this is a time for your placement of concrete and leveling. This is from this point to until the initial set, okay? Then how to do cure here? You have to use fogging, evaporation, retarders, windscreen, sunshade. Let us focus on these two, windscreen and sunshade. These are the two critical things. Don't allow the wind to blow on the surface. Wind will take the moisture, dries up very fast. And don't allow the sunlight directly fall on the concrete. Now, if you don't follow it, what is going to happen? You're going to have plastic shrinkage cracks and settlement cracks. Cracks are the worst one. They basically affect your durability because they become the entry point for the moisture and other deleterious materials. Okay, now if you find plastic shrinkage cracks, settlement cracks, what you do? Basically, retrowel or revibrate the concrete. In this zone, the concrete can be still vibrated. It is still fresh condition. It's not set here. You cannot vibrate here. You cannot vibrate the concrete here. Okay. Second thing, when it comes between initial set and the final set, then you apply curing compounds. Best thing is cover the concrete with plastic sheet. Remember here, when you cover the concrete with the plastic sheet, ensure that there are no wrinkles on the concrete. If the wrinkles are there, the plastic sheet where it touches the concrete, it becomes dark in color. And the plastic sheet where it doesn't touch the concrete, it becomes a different color, light color. So you get a different color variation. So ensure that when you put a plastic sheet, put it without wrinkles. Then after final set, now this becomes the final curing. How do you do it? Ponding you do, water ponding you do it, or place a wet burlap. Wet burlap is nothing but your gunny bags, rice bags. Open it and put it. But some people complain, if I put rice bags, it gives color to the concrete. Okay, fine, don't use rice bags. Then use geotextile. Okay, geotextile doesn't give any color patches to the concrete. Sprinkle the water. And if the surface is slopey, what you do? Then you use wet sand because water cannot stand. Or straw or hay, you wet it. So it won't fall down. This is a way of doing your final curing. I did not tell something on this type of cracks. If the plastic shrinkage crack is there, it is always zigzag. It is zigzag, very zigzag it is. And this has become wider because someone has walked on it, the crack tip has broken. And the plastic shrinkage cracks, they are deep enough. They can cut through the slab. You can see here, this is the bottom of the slab. You can see all the lines are here, water leakage. The lines are along the rebar. So if you have a wash your car on the upper deck, the water will fall in the lower deck. Same thing happens in a toilet also. And this is the settlement cracks. The settlement cracks follows the lines. It happens when you place the concrete. So how to avoid the settlement cracks and the shrinkage cracks? Retrowel or revibrate. Next one. People ask me, okay, the third line of curing, that is after setting time, how long I have to do wet curing? The minimum condition, if you go for ACI 301, it says that you have to do your wet curing until the concrete reaches 70% of the target strength. That is the end point. then you can stop it. There's also a guideline based on ACI. If you use ASTM 150, that is your OPC type 1, you have to do minimum 7 days wet curing. If you do use ASTM type 2, which is slow, it takes 10 days. If you use ASTM 5, people normally use in Indonesia for sulfate resistance, it takes more, 14 days it requires. But if you use blended cement, you have to verify. You have to basically verify how many days it takes the time to achieve the 70% of the target strength. It depends upon your composition of the SCMs. Normally it is 14 days. I take 14 days. You come back here now. How to cure basically vertical members and horizontal members. Remember here, your cover has to be properly strengthened. Cover of the element, concrete or beam, should not be weak because that is the location for moisture and sulfate and chlorides to enter the concrete. So you need to strengthen your cover. Cover always dries faster than the core of the element. Now if you have a vertical member for a column, first thing you have to do is you have to loosen the tie boards, formwork ties, loosen it. Then from the top you put the water. Then afterwards you can take out your formwork. But there is a minimum time to take out the formwork. If you go to the CP65, this is one of the oldest standard. It says vertical formwork to columns, walls has to be at least 1 day. Why 1 day? Because keeping the formwork is the best way of curing. Best way of curing, it won't allow the moisture to escape. For soffit or formwork for the slabs, soffit means the bottom surface of the slab. Remember here, you cannot cure the bottom surface of the slab. There's no way to cure it. So best thing is keep your formwork at least for 3 days. By keeping the formwork for 3 days, you will ensure that moisture will not evaporate out. And similarly, soffit formwork beams, 7 days. Beam is more critical than the slab. So they put 7 days. 7 days, the bottom one don't remove it for the beam. The side one you can remove it, no issue. The bottom one should not be removed. Then horizontal sloping members you can pond it, but sloping members you cannot pond it. You have to use wet sand or cover with water and saturated fabric. The saturated fabric is, best one is geotextile. I see this way of curing in many places. This one. This is a column. They are wrapped up with thin plastic sheet. Okay? And this is the column wrapped with non-transparent plastic sheet. Here the plastic sheet is transparent. Okay? Now let me go back to the definition, what it does. The definition of curing is to avoid loss of moisture. Second is supply additional moisture if there is a drying effect is there. The third one is a favorable temperature. Now if I come back here, if I apply the principle here, you can go and see there. You can see droplets of water on the surface here. That means the water is evaporating from the concrete because it's hot and it is condensing on the inner surface of the plastic sheet. Are you supplying any moisture there? No, you're not supplying any moisture there. Your moisture is coming out. Are you preventing it? No. And the sun rays can easily pass through because this is transparent. So you have failed in all the three aspects. I do not understand what is the use of this. Second one, this is non-transparent plastic sheet. It still fails in the first two, but it passes in the last one. Last one is, it is not allowing direct sun rays to go inside. Yes, there's only one purpose serves. Instead of that, I suggest you a cost-effective method is better to use geotextile and wet it. And the same geotextile can be reused, whereas this plastic film cannot be reused. It's gone. Once you apply, it's use and throw. So better you go for geotextile and wet the geotextile. And you can loosen the tie bolts and put the water, then you can dismantle your formwork. This is consolidation. This is consolidation, and you have to generate a dense concrete at the surface. When you use your vibrator, remember here, the vibrator should not touch the formwork, and should not touch the rebar also. If you touch the rebar and formwork, no effect of vibration. Second thing is, you look at here, the vibrator is held not vertically, it is held in a slopy way. It has to be perfectly vertical. If you hold the vibrator horizontal, you are making the concrete to bleed more. That's not going to happen. It's not going to vibrate. And the third thing is, Your length of the vibrator is very critical. If you are compacting a layer of 200, your length of the vibrator has to be 200. Many times I see depth is 200, length of the vibrator is only 100. Then what happens? You're going to have this kind of poor lines. There's no joint between the bottom layer and the top layer. You get a poor line. The poor line is a defect. Water can enter. And if it happens to be a retaining wall, water will start gushing through here. So ensure that your length of vibrator at least matches the depth of your concrete layer. The third thing, people use vibrator to move the concrete. Vibrator is not meant to move the concrete. When you use a vibrator to move the concrete, what happens is you segregate. The aggregators go down. Aggregate gets separated. You remember here, the split in the concrete basically gives a resistance for the concrete against shrinkage and cracks. So now if you do this way, if you take out all your split here, the concrete here is very weak. It doesn't have no split at all. This is highly prone for cracking. So do not use vibrator to move the concrete. Vibrator is only to compact the concrete. And people ask me, how do vibrate park? So I put my vibrator. Then when should I take out? The simple reason is, you put your vibrator and then you see the surface. Once the surface becomes slightly shiny, that means you have taken out all the entrapped air. That is the last point. If you continue beyond that, it is going to segregate. Your aggregates start going down. It should not happen. So this is the end point of vibration. Next one. When do you finish it? There are many issues are there because of poor finishing. Poor finishing, you end up in lot of surface defects on the elements, especially for the slabs and all that. Now, this is once again my setting time curve. This is the initial set. This is the final set. Now here, from here to here, it is for period for transporting the concrete, placing, screeding, bull floating, and finishing. Okay? Then what happens? During this stage, you will have a bleed water. When the bleed water comes, you find a very shiny surface. So now when the bleed water comes, what you should do? You should finish or not finish? Don't finish. Wait until all the bleed water disappears. If you do not care, simply if you finish on the surface, the top layer becomes very weak. The water cement ratio of the top layer will be very high, and it will going to cause dusting and crazing. Okay, this should not happen. The other thing is, you have to wait until all the bleed water comes out. If there's some bleed water is trapped below the top surface, then we end up in what is called a delamination. Because bleed water is below the top layer, it has to come out. Where it has to go? It will push up the topper layer. So we get a delamination. Then last one more thing is setting time of concrete. The general opinion I find is, setting time in excess of 12 to 16 hours means the concrete is not good. It's very bad concrete. It's a totally wrong concept. You look at here, your ASTM standard, it says, setting time in excess of 24 hours. Even if 24 hours setting time, long setting time is there, it will not affect the final strength of the concrete provided you properly remove your formwork. You have to hold the formwork for longer time. Now, there is no worry. Even 24 hours setting time is there. Still, at 28 days, you're going to achieve your target strength. There's no issue on that. Okay? Now, I suggest you, this is the picture you can see, early removal of formwork. I tell you, if you have longer setting time, please don't remove it. You can always complain to the suppliers, no issue. You have right to do that. But I suggest you keep one cylinder here, one cylinder which is cast using the same concrete here. Keep this cylinder next to the element, same grade it is, and do same type of curing. And observe the setting time of the concrete. You check with your finger. Once you set means, then you can remove it. Now, you have removed it without caring when the concrete was not set. So what happens? The concrete will fall. Then next what you do? You do repair. Remember here, the quality of repair depends upon what type of repair material you use and what is your workmanship. And most of the structures which have failed, they failed near the repaired portion of the structure. So repair is always a repair. Don't try to do This is the last thing. When your bleeding is there, please don't walk. Please don't walk on the surface. You see, people have walked on the surface, then it causes a very big repair. You should not do it. Okay, this is example of water trapping below the upper surface. You try to finish. You try to finish earlier. The water is trapped here. Then this will becomes opened up. This is called as blisters, you call basically. See, these are blisters are shown here. These are the blisters. What you have to do is, if the blisters are there, use a trowel and break them. Then you finish it. Don't try to finish. Don't try to leave them as it is. They will lift up the upper layer. This is the last thing I tell you. This is the way of curing. We have to improve our curing at the site and making the specimens. You can see here, these specimens are made right on the road. That means when the lorry moves here, the cylinders will be dancing there. The cylinder should not be disturbed when the concrete is fresh. This is a very bad way of management. It is something been knocked out. And look at here, all the cylinders are dry. Look at here, half the cylinder is exposed. Now and here, some people are sleeping over the cube. They put a plywood sheet and resting on that. When they move, the cubes also move and disturb the concrete. Now ultimately, what is going to happen is, if this happens, the cylinder will fail, you end up in curing. When you core it, you are basically destroying the original quality of the concrete. And this you have to remember here, what happens if I don't cure for 28 days? If I cure all the 28 days, this is my strength. This is for 7 days, it's only 90%. If it's 3 days in water, then afterwards in air, it is only 75. This is entire air, is only on 55% of the target. That should not happen. Last one is honeycombing. Honeycombing is a defect in the cover. Why it happens? Because you are not properly vibrated. Your slump has dropped and your choosing of the aggregate size. The aggregates are bigger than your spacing. There is a ACR requirement is there. For example, if 25 mm maximum size aggregate is there, the clear opening has to be at least 33 millimeters. And this is the example. This is the example of leakage through the corners. Corners has to be properly taped before you pour your concrete. And leakage will be more if the concrete is flow concrete. This is my last slide. This is for mass concreting. Mass concreting, what is the effect? Cold joint. You should never get cold joint. The cold joint becomes a path for leakage. Of course, it will affect your structural integrity. So now, you are casting a slab here. Divide the slab into segments. Segment 1, segment 2, segment 3. Then you got 3 pipelines. 3 pumps basically, carrying each pipeline, pump 1, pump 2, pump 3. Then, you always use shorter length of the pipes. This is the end, discharging end. You have got a flexible hole. You start from here, discharging the concrete, placing the concrete, then you come back here. Meantime, you start also here, so that both will be done same time. There is no cold joint between the bottom layer. Once you finish the layer here, you should not start from here. You have to go back here and start from here. Because this is the first concrete placed. This is going to set faster. Don't start from this end. You have to go back here. Once again, assemble all the pipelines and come from here. Then you continue the process. There's no chance of cold joint. The simple way of avoiding cold joint is, if you suspect some delay is there, keep on re-vibrating the concrete. There's the best method to control your formation of cold joint. Let me come to the conclusion. So, there are 2 conclusions here. Long-term durability can be achieved by the following measures. One is adopting lower water to binder ratio or water ratio. Using blended cement, either can be PCC, PPC, slag cement, or the hydraulic cement. I said hydraulic cement is the best replacement for OPC. Hydraulic cement can also give early strength. It can be designed for moderate and high sulfate resistance. It can also be used for low heat. Proper curing until the concrete reaches 70% of the target strength. The following correct procedure while compacting the concrete. Following proper construction practice to avoid defects in the cover concrete. These are the basic things to follow to get a durable concrete. Then sustainability. If you use your PCC, PPC, slag cement, hydraulic cement, they're all green cement. They also give you sustainability. So, the end, construction is not only for building, but for durability, environment, and sustainability. So, thank you. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much Dr. Alvin for your great materi for today. Kita dapatkan banyak sekali materi dan penjelasan tentang konkret pada hari ini sehingga teman-teman bisa banyak belajar dan pengetahuan baru.